I can't believe the Prince of Persia is fucking dead. Oh.
Actually, that's what happens every time you...
You think
Hold
me
on.
mad.
Narration.
I can see by the look in your eyes. You think my story is impossible. Perhaps I am mad.
Actually, dude, your story is sane compared to quite a few stories I've heard.
But I assure you, every word is true.
Sure. Anyway, basically, as I'm about to show, every time you enter one of those sand things, you can save the game or repeat the vision.
As you wish.
You just... and then you wake up just like that, in the fetal position.
Uh-huh.
Now, when it comes to save point placement, they're actually very generous, because basically they get formed by the sands that you collect when you kill enemies. So if you see a room full of enemies, you can guarantee that every time you kill all of them, one of these things is gonna form up. Anyway, now I'm basically just showing off basically the rest of the room, because again, the game kind of copy-paste a bit some of the environments early on, but later on it actually gets some variety. For example, in part 3 we're gonna get the first boss fight in a room that's pretty much identical to this one. But anyway, basically we need to follow that girl, remember? The one that we saw earlier in the cutscenes. And she fell off for this way, so we need to follow her here. And of course, we need to always use the cliche of the character saying wait and pretending it's end while the other is running away. Anyway, another cool thing now, it's shown also before, but basically every time you enter a new room with a puzzle or acrobatics involved, you get a brief glimpse of how the room looks, so you can get a good look around and see how to use the environment to your advantage. It helps you solve the puzzle. And yes, there's also falling damage in this game, so be careful not to fall too much. And the prince is very susceptible, so even relatively mid height will be enough to damage him.
Guess he needs to work on leg day.
Not necessarily, just need to get more, basically to get more resistance.
Get good.
Because
Maybe
he is agile, but he's not resistant.
maybe they should have called the game Prince of Persia.
And here's another thing. These things are sand clouds. They basically, you can collect when you collect 8 of them, you get one of those yellow discs that are called the sand tanks. The things that are around them, that the game will explain later, are called instead, I forgot, they're using another term, but basically they represent an half moon. They allow you to use a special attack that we will see later, and they both recharge, and you get more of them by basically absorbing the enemies, by basically, as I showed before, putting them down and pressing triangle on them by absorbing them in the dagger. Anyway, now where we need to go is to do some acrobatics on the bars, classic style.
Mm-hmm.
You can also speed through and press X constantly to move forward, but be careful because you may end up in an area where you're not supposed to go, or basically like plummet down.
Yeah.
There we go.
It sucks when that happens.
Same happens if you're like grabbing a column or something, but we'll get more to that later. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Nope.
And here's the other main mechanic. Since I died like an idiot,
Dying.
we can use the power of the dagger to reverse time, basically. It's like a rewind feature, but it costs, as you can see, one of those tanks. So be careful. And there's also a small radical that's right under your health bar that represents how much can you rewind, and it gets regenerated constantly depending on your actions. So there may be instances where you cannot actually rewind time despite suffering a fatal blow. So be careful.
I was just gonna say, is that a mechanic of the game, dying?
Just no.
When wonder if there actually ever was a game where a mechanic
Dark
kissed
Souls.
death?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
What happens? What if you die, you get like double health or something?
Dweebs, Dark Souls is so tough that you are already dead.
Depends on the game.
You're already dead.
In the first one, you basically lose all your... Well, in all of them, you lose all your souls and everything. But basically, in the first one, you lose your quote-unquote humanity. And you need to recover them. And don't worry, it's just a game mechanic. In the second one, you get progressively lower health bar because you suffer because of it. In the third one, you don't suffer too much consequences of it, depending on your actions. So you will get introduced to a new enemy type. These fat dudes with a club. They function exactly like the standard enemies with a sword, so you don't have to. You basically can be more safe around them. Again, the dudes you need to worry the most for the moment now are the ones with the pole arms, because they tend to be much more aggressive than these ones. These guys instead just wait until they get slashed and absorbed.
Oh boy.
However, if you will, there you go. As you can see, you're not invulnerable while absorbing enemies, so be careful.
I collected enough sand, and dagger gained the power to stop.
There you go.
Not for me, but for the enemy I struck.
Basically, you can perform a couple of special attacks. For example, pressing triangle can stun an enemy, and you can slash it directly. You do not absorb him this way, though. So be careful what your action do. And instead, you can have another special attacks where you literally slow time around enemies, and you can hitting them easily without having them guarding your attacks. However, both of them consumes that meter that I said before, so be careful how you manage stuff.
This series' continuity is weird. They reboot it only to go back to this continuity straight afterwards.
Yeah, the dweebs. I mean, I can explain this stuff even if you don't go around searching on TV tropes or Wikipedia.
Wait, what are you referring to? I mean, I know that there were the two reboots, but...
There's the reboot in 2008, but then Forgotten Sands came in 2010.
Oh, the fourth game in this, right?
Yeah, it uses also the same engine Assassin's Creed 2 used, so that's why it was cheaper to make.
It was really a weird decision that they decided to make it take place in between games, though.
So I'm guessing. So considering how Ubisoft has been focusing a lot on their shitty Tom Clancy games in recent years, I'm guessing at this point the series is pretty much dead.
I'll stop.
Pretty much. I mean, people have lost. Even the most diehard fan has lost hope, and I can imagine why.
And sadly, Assassin's Creed is kind of responsible for that too, since well.
That too, because again, it pretty much uses the same combat. It has parkour and everything, so people may not care. There was supposed to be a new one, but they are converted into that Assassin's Creed spin-off that no one cares about, Chronicles.
Because, of course, why not make a spin-off of Assassin's Creed that nobody was asking for instead of the Prince of Persia game that people were asking for?
Then again, Jova, if anything was anything to go by, wouldn't have been that spectacular to begin with. And remember, Prince of Persia has a lot of shitty games, like that Nintendo DS game that's the follow-up of the 2008 reboot.
Oh, that's gonna be fun to commentate on for all the wrong reasons.
I'm about to show a secret, actually. Here, you can find some of these areas that are branching paths, and you can hear these music swirling around. Then you follow this path, which has all these curtains around, which doesn't seem to be normal, then it fades to a blank screen, and then you find this. This is a special room. This is a special room.
Is anyone there?
That's pretty much, it's not basically collectibles, but basically they're rewarding stuff. You can find this magical fountain, and by drinking it, you extend your health bar pretty much. There are, I forgot a good chunk of them in the entire game, and obviously finding all of them will net you a trophy or achievement. But basically, if you find all of them, your health bar extends quite enough. But honestly, you can actually steam through this game without having even one of them, because if you manage your moves correctly, you barely lose any health, or you can always reverse time to avoid getting hit or anything. So,
can you get any more of those time orbs?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
those time orbs there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As I mentioned, Waves, when you collect the sand clouds, those things that are on the
Oh.
ground.
Thanks.
Give me
Hold
the
on.
dagger.
Who are you?
I am Farah, the daughter of the Maharaja from whom you stole it.
Look at that,
This
a
is your
princess.
doing,
Oh, hi,
I
Shara.
saw my father turn to sand.
and we will share his fate if you do not give me the dagger to undo what you have done.
Your traitorous vizier used the same words. From now on, I trust no one but myself.
Look at that, new enemy type.
Run!
Carrots?
Yep, sand scarabs.
Go back to
Unlike normal enemies, you can kill them very, very easily because they barely even parry your attacks. But they cannot be absorbed, so they do not give you sand, extra sand. Anyways, I was mentioning this while collecting those the sand clouds that are through the game. You can extend those orbs that you can see. The half moon on the immediate right that you can see instead get extended by absorbing enemies in combat.
Okay.
Alright, so, well, considering that the series is dead, has Ubisoft at the very least had the decency of been re-releasing the games in modern platforms at least?
There was a Steam
No.
release, but that
Basically,
was a
they-
long
they-
time ago.
No, they are still present, the Steam releases.
Oh, I know.
but,
I'm talking about when that was actually released. It was a long time ago, Amigo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Has the original Prince of Persia been re-released?
The original trilogy, you mean?
Yeah.
The first two games, yes, but in a weird way. The first one was remade, completely remaked, and it was available for PS3, Xbox 360, I think also on PC, but basically only digitally. Hold on, important cutscene. I'll tell you more later. Because now we're establishing another thing. Look at that, the hourglass.
You know... Oh, hold on.
I did not understand the meaning of what I had just seen. But I knew, with a certainty I could not explain, that those winged creatures had a master. The man who had tricked me into opening the hourglass now had his prize.
Wait a minute.
Uh,
Vizier
Dagger
tricks
as well would
Prince,
stop at
who
nothing to
turns
possess
out
it.
to
Hold on.
Well, I would give him what he sought. I would plunge it into his foul and treacherous heart.
Okay,
plan.
thanks, Yuri.
Interesting fun there.
Anyway, however, the second one, The Sword and the Flame, I think it's called, was also too remade, but only for mobile. And the third one, Prince of Persia 3D, still hasn't been remade.
Okay. About the mobile port. Look, nothing against mobile, but we have games like that to thank for mobiles' very weary reputation.
Well, honestly, I mean, the only thing I don't get is, even if like anything is announced for mobile, even if it's part of a series that's still going relatively strong on home consoles, people treat it as though it's cancer.
Well, sadly, Dibs, that's just about of like 80% of what you find on mobile being really bad. Case in point, the remake on the mobile for Prince of Persia. Holy cow! What are they thinking with that remake?
Or that wonderful masterpiece, Pocket Monster Saga.
But Pedro, how about Final Fantasy 5 and 6 on mobile?
Well, from what I've heard, isn't it fine aside from the graphics?
That's what I'm talking
The
about.
only well, honestly, Joe, again, the only real problem are the field sprites of the characters. Yeah, they look ugly, but the rest of the game is fine.
Which is weird, though, because Final Fantasy 9 actually managed to pull off stuff despite being on both mobile and PC.
Well, Final Fantasy
That's a
9
3D game.
Final Fantasy 9 is kind of a reverse. I mean, the sprites are the 3D models are basically excellent, but the backgrounds are stuck in low resolution.
Yeah, I think they up-res that in the PC version. I should probably get back
No,
to playing
Joe,
that.
because it's exactly the PC version I'm talking about.
Oh, never mind. It's a mod I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at this point some fan probably was already mod.
There's a mod for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get them in their nice HD formats for those backgrounds. I'm gonna have to see if I can install that for our playthrough of it.
Honestly, I think the backgrounds look just fine.
They're
No, they
fine.
do.
They
It's
just look a
that
bit off.
it's only noticeable. That's the thing. There we go.
But
Yeah, basically, as I was mentioning, again, when it comes instead to these Sand trilogy, well, quadrilogy, I guess, because there are 4 titles technically. You only the best way to play these obviously on the PS3 and the Xbox 360 because we haven't been re-released. As for reboot, it just came out on the platforms. It came out those years, 2008, so Xbox 360, PC, and PS3. And you just stay there because the fans didn't like it.
Well, considering how Ubisoft is shit at making games lately, maybe it's for the best that Prince of Persia stays out of.
Watch Dogs 2's. Watch
well-
Dogs 2's good.
okay. See the
Well,
frustrating.
okay, they have their occasional good wonders, but that doesn't in any way erase the rest.
Never mind the fact, Wibs, that Watch Dogs did not make a good first impression franchise-wise. Now that's not.
But I'm talking about the second game.
I
Yeah,
know. What I'm saying is
that's the thing. It took a second game to actually convince people.
that's not how game
other
franchises
Ubisoft
should go.
franchise had to do that?
Oh God.
Assassin's Creed, but that's exactly my point. It has never learned a thing.
See, okay, here's the thing. Considering how they can make good Assassin's... Well, okay, fair enough Assassin's Creed games going off of Syndicate, that means they could make a Prince of Persia game, but they don't want to because Assassin's Creed is what makes all the money.
Well, again, Joe. But to be fair, it's like Pedro's thoughts on Naughty Dog. You know, I mean, if they don't want to make something, then
No,
Well,
that's
no.
different
Let
because-
me
Let him finish. Let him finish. Go ahead.
finish, guys. Christ. Anyway, I was just gonna say, Jova, would you? I don't know about you, Jova, but I wouldn't want a game in a series that they feel like they have to make out of obligation, and therefore it's not as good as it could have been if they actually cared about it.
That's
Oh,
the
yeah,
problem.
But it's a difference, Dweebs. Naughty Dog is just a development studios. Ubisoft is an entire company that just publish games, not just develops it.
Also-
So they could easily ask a different studio, a complete casual studio to make one.
Also, Dwibs, it's a bit different. With Naughty Dog, they genuinely do what they're interested in. Ubisoft aren't genuine with their interests. Their interests are money-driven. That's the difference. Look.
So that's like almost every game company ever.
Let me put it like this, Dwibs.
Well, Dweebs, in that case, we just need to show a bit more humanity.
Let me put it like this, Dwibs. I can respect Naughty Dog's decisions. I may not agree with it, but I respect it because they show a genuine interest, and the products they make from doing that different direction are pretty much good. But with Ubisoft, they went the cash cow route, and Assassin's Creed has sadly become a rather hit-and-miss franchise.
Also, not for nothing, guys, but I think didn't we do enough Ubisoft? Didn't we already bash Ubisoft plenty enough in part one?
Why do you have such a big problem with us bashing companies that are worth bashing on?
But if we do this every single part, it'll get monotonous and boring.
Well,
Maybe for you.
Yeah, and honestly, dudes, it's not like we do it like the entire part anyway.
And also, says the guy who take every occasion to reference Ballistic.
True.
Yeah.
Not to mention the guy who constantly brings up how he doesn't like...
Anyway, to be on the game
have you
itself,
heard
a new
of
enemy
Elon
type,
Musk?
the dancer. These girls are actually agile, so be careful if they start to attack you, and they can have an actual leg sweep move that can actually pull up your guard. So actually be extra careful around.
You stabbed her in the butt.
Yeah, they actually scream
nice.
very awkwardly when you absorb them.
Sand zombie girls.
Well, it makes sense in context. They were part of the entourage.
True.
So they got affected by the sand. Remember, the sand pretty much affected almost everyone, aside from the prince and Farah, for what we've seen so far,
And the
the
vizier.
vizier because magic and shit. However, there you go. You can see a bit of a problem. The game not relying too much on combat means it gets very repetitive, very fast. I mean,
Kick, stab, slice.
Yeah.
stab.
more like jump on enemy. Again, some enemies later on don't allow you to do that move, so you need to be more creative with your moveset.
Thank-
And you go just perform the special attack. But again, your moveset is still pretty limited.
Thankfully, they improved this in the second and third games. And then they screwed it up in the 2008 game.
Well, that's a topic for another day, Jova. But my point is that Warrior
That's partly
Within.
why they went back to this continuity in the.
Well, okay.
There's many reasons.
Let me go one step for each, because it needs to be discussed with each game. But I'm gonna just show you.
Well, I did say partly why.
Anyway, go on.
No, Dave. Basically, you're partially right. My point is, with each passing game, they try to focus a bit more on combat, and it shows. Especially Warrior Within.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Well, I say that they improved with the combat on Warrior Within the second game.
No, hold on. I'm not gonna say anything anymore about Warrior Within because, especially Pedro needs to be seen firsthand.
Oh yeah, true.
I'll stop the story.
What, is the game broken or something?
You'll see.
No,
dudes.
Joe, no, Dweebs, you'll see. I'll just give you a bit of clue and say that it has something common with a character that has black fur. But we'll see that. We'll see more in the next part.
Shadow?
See ya.
See ya.
See ya.